Is at 3:30. Well, hopefully it's going to be a good one, and straight away let's get the thoughts of the rival managers. They, of course, are Brian Cody of Kilkenny and Dennis Walsh, who is the Cork manager. They have been speaking to Ger Canning.
It's an interesting Kilkenny selection today because you've got the last four captains to win the All-Ireland, and of course it's a significant year, or could be.
Well, I wasn't even thinking about that, Ger, to be honest. I mean, the four of them are playing today, I suppose, yeah. But essentially it's about, everybody being out there in the whole 15 and maybe whatever 20, 21 is needed out there. So it's going to be a huge battle for us, but we're looking forward to it.
One man you're missing, of course, is John Tennyson. Now, playing against Cork in the semi-final, he reduces your options by not being there, not being available.
Yeah, for sure. John is a super player. He had a great season last season. I played wing back and came on against Galway, and he had a huge role in the game as well, and he was really flying fit and massively determined. But he's gone now, and it's very, very unfortunate for John. But I mean, somebody else will have to step in if necessary. The very hot favourites tag, how do you feel about it? Doesn't come into my head at all. I see this as a massive 50-50 battle. I mean, favourites doesn't mean anything. Two very good teams up against each other, so it'll be a serious game.
We've had 5.5 matches now, including the replayed Munster and extra time Munster final, but I suppose that was, we were geared up for May for that performance, and I suppose we're geared up for today as well. We've maybe fallen slightly off the wagon in between, but at the same time we lasted the pace of Waterford there from a point of view of physicality, intensity, and just maybe we should have got a few more scores, and we can only have ourselves to blame on that. But we could have easily got over the line in those, and we might be looking at a different scenario. But we're here now exactly where we set out to be, and I believe there's a huge performance in the team again. We've a lot of games played, including the league final and the whole lot. But I think that has to stand to somewhere along the line, and I'm hoping it'll all come right today.
Yeah, a big day for Dennis Walsh, the Cork manager, and changes having to be made on their team, Tomas. Talk to me about them and the impact that they're likely to have on the Cork setup.
Well, I suppose all week, Mike, the big one was about Shane O'Neill, whether Shane O'Neill could recover from the hamstring injury that he picked up in the Munster final. And it was always going to be nip and tuck whether he'd make it or not. And unfortunately for Cork, he's not starting, and he won't play any part, being honest with you, right? So I think that is a big blow, because Shane he has leadership qualities. He's kind of the safeguard around on Cadigan at the edge of the square as well, right? But the man coming in, Shane Murphy, is equally as good a player as well, right? He was very, very good the last day against Antrim, but this is a totally different test, He's coming from Ian's own club, fantastic hurling pedigree. He's come up through the underage ranks as well, Maybe one criticism that I would have had in the last day was that he gave away a lot of frees against Antrim there, and it just was probably overhyped for the occasion, getting his opportunity and stuff like that. And a big match days, that can happen to anybody, So he just needs maybe to keep a bit more inside today, and I suppose the big one then up front is Michael Cusson not playing, and people say Michael Cusson picked up an injury last week in training, or last Sunday morning in training, but I believe Cian McCarthy has been in Dennis Walsh's head for the last 2 weeks. It's a bolt out of the blue, it's a big surprise. I take Cyril here maybe down a bit memory lane, back to 1986, the legend himself, Teddy McCarthy, who is his father, right? Teddy played his first hurling match here against Galway in the All-Ireland final, right? So that was his baptism to fire to a senior hurling championship. Cian, if the pedigree is good as was there with Teddy, but it's a big ask. He's a young lad, played under 21 this year, got sent off in his last match in the championship against Waterford, so we didn't see him maybe in the Munster Championship campaign. But he's lively, there's a bit of aggression there, and they'll be looking to him to win puckouts, because he has a good hand, and that's very strong.
Is he good in the air?
That's where he is good in the air, and that's where they go. Whether he plays a centre forward or he's going to have to be good in the air. So it is a big risk, there's no doubt about that, right? But it's one I think worth gambling on, certainly.
Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look maybe in a little bit more depth at some of the strengths and weaknesses of both of these sides. Now, Cyril Farrell here, you reckon the strength of this Kilkenny side is the defensive abilities of JJ Delaney and Tommy Walsh and the way they can dominate things.
Yeah, they're all great hurlers in defence. Jackie Turner's probably as good as you get, but these we're all referring to it all, the aerial power of these guys. This is JJ Delaney, gone out from full back to wing back, great in there. This is against Galway, high in the air, catches the ball. No, he's not that extra big, but he'd do that all day. Here he is against Dublin again, and again, like, it's a high ball, there's nothing fancy about it, but again, it's a hard ball to be won. Not usually see a footballer in Kilkenny. Now this fella, Tommy Welsh, he's small as well, but small in stature, but big in the air. Watch this, up in the air again, catch out around Dublin, and he'll drive forward. Now he'll do that all day. Every game you go to see play, let it be a league game or a Welsh Cup game, Tommy Welsh is playing. Again, like, he's able to drop behind, and if it's just kind of in a ruck, a muddle at all, usually Kilkenny like, well, Tommy again, little flick back to someone clear. Now these guys, they're good in there, so you have to break it down. Now Tomas on about Keane McCarthy, that's why he's probably there. He probably will be on Delaney, and on the other side you're going to have a right duel between Niall McCarthy and Tommy Welch. And I think the chop took out from Donlogue, okay, but he'd pinned him long to tie up the wing backs if he's able and put pressure on them.
We know the calibre of JJ Delaney and Tommy Walsh very well, and we saw just exactly what they can do. But the other thing about it is, Tomas, in the modern game of hurling, if half forwards come back as they're inclined to do off their men, then they're giving guys like this even more space to operate in.
But I think that's tactically, that's where Dennis Walsh and his backroom team have to get it right today. We got to go sit on top of Tommy Welch and JJ Delaney. We cannot afford to give them the opportunity to win breaking ball, to pick up loose play, and when it's been pucked out, I think Donlogue Cusack will have to go along with puckouts today. These guys will have to, the ball will have to stick, certainly from puckouts and stuff like that if they're going up to catch it. But the important thing is they got to show aggression on these two guys, because they can't afford Tommy Welch or JJ Delaney to dictate things the way they've done in the last couple of weeks. And that is, you're right, Michael, because the half forwards have been drifting out to midfield and those two guys have stayed in their position. Cork cannot afford to do that today.
Yeah. OK, now, Ger, I think a question that Ger Loughnane has been asking himself, and we're going to ask him now, is the attacking options that you think, Ger, that Cork are likely to use or should use?
Cork's tactics, even apart from that displays of a bit of Jekyll and Hyde about him first. When they started off against Tipperary, it seemed to have an ideal tactic here of isolating a sack inside the edge of the square, man to man. Right, he's very hard to cope. He's very hard to deal with when he gets the ball completely in his own. Now, most of the ball was supplied by John Gardner from wing back. The puck out to John Gardner. Now look at him inside. Even if he doesn't catch it, the corner forward is coming in, and that's where they got the goals from the last. The 3 goals came from that. Now, what contrast this against Waterford? Look at the low ball inside. Isaki hasn't got the skill to cope with the low ball like that. He's not going to be effective if he gets low, slow ball coming in like that. He's no good to him. Now, the last day, funny enough, when Isaki was taken off and Custom was taken off, they reverted to that traditional game of running with the ball, and they looked much better, much more dangerous, and they were much more effective. You know, the two midfielders, Naughton and Kenny, running with the ball, taking on their men, and getting the ball to the man in space and putting it over the bar. Now, much more easy to say, easy to do there maybe against Antrim, but against the Kilkenny defence, it's going to be much more difficult. But I just add to what the lad said about the Kilkenny defence.
Yes.
You know, on Tommy Welch and the like of JJ Delaney, what you cannot let them do is catch the ball in there. We all know that.
Right.
But you also cannot let them come back in and cover for their full back line.
Yes.
Because if they do that, you're not going to get any chance around the goal. So you kind of keep them between the 50-yard line and the halfway line. And if they don't mark you, then put the ball over the bar. Take your long-range points.
But that's,
and then hope that something will
you
come
mentioned,
inside.
I mean, you saw the clips of Izaki, right? I mean, he has to stay at the edge of the square.
He has to
right?
stay
And
there.
your two
Exactly.
corner forwards will have to play off him
Yes,
then. Whether
exactly.
it's Ben O'Connor or Patrick Horgan,
Correct.
they've got to watch the breaking ball, certainly. I mean,
And the half forwards, Tomas, must keep the half back line out away from
and
them.
I agree with you. I mean,
yeah.
you'd expect maybe a bit of a running game from Cork, particularly in midfield, from Tom Kenny and Cathal Naughton to get through the gap there and maybe get their half back line to commit and throw the hand pass inside. That's what you should be looking for.
The funny thing about this Kilkenny team is that, you know, you're looking at stars like in the half back line, Noel Hickey at full back, like one of the great full backs, so on, and talking less and less about like one of the great stars of hurling, Henry Shefflin. I mean, and what they've got up front.
Well, I mean, we're seeing probably one of the greatest players in the last 15 years, certainly 10, 15 years, no doubt about it, right? But the crucial thing, Michael, about this guy is his flexibility all over the field. I mean, when they were in trouble against Galway in periods in the game, Shefflin was inside a corner forward, they bring him out to centre forward, and suddenly he starts dictating things from the centre forward position, throwing balls around, hand pass, and then this is where he's at his most dangerous, right? Getting in behind the cornerbacks, ghosting in there. And I think it's a gameplay that maybe Cody adopts as well. Certainly maybe start him in the wing forward, see how he's working around there. And eventually there's a bit of a rotation. He might go to centre forward for a period of time. He might go into full forward for a period of time. But eventually he'll end up in a corner forward position.
Yes,
I mean, the legs are probably not the way they were of the last number of years,
especially
and there
after the cruciate
absolutely after the cruciate, there is a bit of a slowdown.
You're right.
But they love to get him into an isolated position, maybe on one of the weakest defenders on the day, and that's where it's crucial.
OK, let's get some other opinions on today's game. The views now of some men who know firsthand how keen a rivalry there is in these games between Kilkenny and Cork.
Cork Kilkenny really is all about history and tradition. You know, probably the two counties with the highest number of All-Ireland medals, I suppose, really, and titles to their name. Just a huge respect, I think, on both sides, especially from a Cork perspective. Playing Kilkenny really is, you know, it's the ultimate.
Cork and Kilkenny, like, you know, they're fierce, proud hurling counties. You know, there's huge respect between the two counties.
I suppose the records speak for themselves in terms of the number of All-Ireland titles each, so there's a huge tradition there, there's a huge rivalry, but it always has been, I think, in good spirit, and there's always been great games down through the years which are very competitive.
Earliest recollection would be 1978 All-Ireland final. Unfortunately, it wasn't a great day for Kilkenny as Cork won to the sword to win their 3 in a row.
Jimmy Berry with the shot that's low, and it's the goal! Jimmy Berry the scorer of the goal that can win it all Ireland!
I remember going up in '82, you know, we were just going up to make up the numbers, and we turned them that day. We came back in '83, huge, you know, roaring hot favourites, and very, very lucky to beat them. So, you know, on the day, anything can happen.
'83 probably is one we look back on with ones that we felt we maybe could have won. You know, Richie Poore got a goal just after half-time.
And it goes to Ger Fennelly, into Harry Ryan. Ryan trying to get through, and a shot, and a goal! A goal by Richie Poore!
Just lucky enough to get to it just before Ger Cunningham came off the line, and as it turned out, it was a huge goal on the day because there was a very, very strong wind and we had played with it.
And Kilkenny are the champions!
And looking back at the first All-Ireland final I was involved in was in 1999, in which we won, and we went in that day against Kilkenny, I suppose rank outsiders, and we produced a big performance and probably a shock in the day, and we won 13 points to 12, and a guy from my own club, Mark Landers, was captain that day as well, which made it extra special.
Welcome back to Leeside, Lee McCarthy, we've missed you a lot!
I suppose 2003, after the strike, we were going into it again as underdogs, but it was a game we could have won. You know, Kilkenny had won the All-Ireland previously, and we were kind of hopeful that we could pull a fast one over again that day.
Kilkenny with the title! The champions have retained the McCarthy Cup!
They stopped us in 2004, and then we stopped them in 2006, so, like, you know, they've done 4 in a row, we've done 4 in a row, and like this is the ultimate test. Like, this is the All-Ireland really, as far as they're concerned, you know.
There was a lot of respect mutual respect between Cork and Kilkenny at the time, and I suppose the last 10 years things have maybe changed a little bit that way. 1 or 2 comments here and there that maybe shouldn't have been said.
I think this game next Sunday could be a real physical battle, and you know, it's the team that I wanted the most will come out, but I hope Hurling will be the winner on the day.
We're not being given a chance by the bookies, we're outsiders. You're playing against potentially one of the greatest teams that has ever played and that haven't lost a match for 5 years.
Any Kilkenny person that will take this Cork team for granted next Sunday, I think, could be making a huge mistake. You know, they don't fear Kilkenny, even though they know this is a very, very good Kilkenny team, but they have no fear of them.
You know, Kilkenny stopped us in 2006 going for 3 in a row, and I'm sure Cork people will get great pleasure if Cork could stop Kilkenny getting the 5 in a row.
For the first 10 or 15 minutes, Brian Gavin will want eyes in the back of his head when he's refereeing. And but when the dust settles, Marty, I think Kilkenny will have the greater firepower and the stronger bench to win the day.
Okay, we're going to take a short break here on the program.